So what we're going to do today, for those of you that are new in the room, we're going to fairly quickly go through what we call a weekly fundamental assessment, where we plot the fundamentals for the upcoming week on a spreadsheet, and this allows us to create a plan which we can execute for the coming week, and it also lets us know how we can trade the opportunities for the coming week, and also what techniques we're going to be using to do that. Now, for everybody else who's been in the room before, we're going to go through these a little bit quicker this week, and we're going to get through the fundamental assessment because everybody should have a fairly good idea of what we're doing on the weekly fundamental assessment, and then we can come through and have a look at the opportunities and the key areas of support and resistance, or the key levels that we're looking to take these opportunities from for the coming week. And we're also going to share with you some of the targets that we're looking for in these currency pairs for the coming week. So to start off with, let's get up the Forex calendar for the week. So quick thing to say before we start here, if we have a quick look back at last week, we can see that on Wednesday we had the FOMC over here, 7 o'clock. Now this was very interesting because we were looking, or everybody really was looking, for an interest rate increase on the US dollar index. And the reason we're going through this just quickly is because it relates to the US dollar index, which we're going to have a look at first before we go through the currency pairs. However, you can see that before the Fed rate decision came out, we had some pretty dire data coming out of the US on the same day, and this spiked the US dollar index to the downside. Again, we'll look at these technicals when we come into the charts, so just bear this in mind. And as a result, the Fed didn't push the market down any further than it was already going to do, because usually when you raise interest rates, it's good for the currency. However, the American dollar, you will find with many of these, including non-farm payrolls, has a tendency to do the opposite. So we were expecting this to push it down, but because of the dire data that came out just before, it pushed the data back up, and it has resulted in the US dollar index sitting in a range at the start of this week. So we will look at the technicals of the US dollar index before we look at the pairs. Going on to the this week. Now, the good thing about this week is we don't have a huge amount of news coming out this week, so we can look at trading with fairly tight stops on a lot of the give me a second, guys, because everything I do here with you on a Monday, we do live, and we do actually trade, and we look at these opportunities, and we send out these signals to our subscribers. So if you could just give me 2 seconds, because we're just let's send out a quick message. Okay, fine, and then we can carry on. So looking at the fundamental data for the upcoming week, we can bring in our weekly fundamental assessment spreadsheet. So on the Monday, which is today, we can see very little. We have the RBA governor speaking. However, this is not expected to be, well, this was not expected to be significant. You can see it's already passed now. So for Monday, we don't have any real major announcements on news expected for today. Tomorrow, we can see the monetary policy minutes meeting for the Aussie dollar, which is coming morning, early hours of tomorrow morning. So we are going to put down a large check for the Aussie dollar tomorrow. Let me just get this back up. Then we have, continuing into the week, the SMB Chairman Jordan speaking Tuesday morning. You can see he's due to participate in a panel discussion in Bern. However, this is not expected, again, to be especially volatile. Usually when you get them speaking in meetings or at universities, they don't normally have the same effect as if it was, say, a monetary policy statement. So we're not going to put down the SMB Chairman Jordan speaking. However, just bear in mind that it could have some volatility around here. Similar thing coming out with Carney. He's going to be speaking at House Dinner, so we're not going to put anything down for the pound. That is pretty much everything for Tuesday, apart from, again, is you have SMB Jordan speaking again. But again, I don't see anything here which constitutes something we should put down as major potential volatility. But just bear in mind, his speech could have volatility around these times on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we really have the headline event for this week out of all the currency pairs, which is the New Zealand interest rate decision. We can see that there is not expected to be any increase or decrease in the New Zealand interest rate. So we're going to put down a mark in the box for the New Zealand on Wednesday, and we are going to use this to look at some of the New Zealand pairs that we're looking for the week, and we could be using this in a certain way, which we can discuss in a minute. And we also have crude oil coming out on the Wednesday as well, so we're going to put a small X in the box for the Canadian dollar, because as we know, the oil price has a correlation with the Canadian dollar. When oil is going up, it produces a positive effect on the Canadian dollar, and when it's going down, it produces a negative effect on the Canadian dollar. Although that didn't happen last week for reasons we will explain when we have a look at the oil chart. So you can see we've got to Wednesday now, and we pretty much don't have anything apart from the interest rate decision and the monetary policy meetings coming out tomorrow morning. Coming down to Thursday, we've got the Canadian core retail sales, and we also have unemployment claims coming out. And so we're going to put a small X on the Thursday for the CAD, and we're going to put a small US dollar on Thursday as well. And scrolling down a little bit further, we can see that we have finally CAD CPI on Friday. Now, last week we had an announcement come out on the Monday. In fact, we can have a look at that in a second. Let me just put this down for the CAD, and then we've done the weekly fundamental assessment here. So looking at the weekly fundamental assessment before we move on, we can see that we have a pretty clear run on all the euro and the Japanese yen pairs. We have a pretty clear run on the US dollar. We have a clear run on the pound. CAD starts to get some catalyzing, potential catalyzing events coming later on into the week, but none of them huge major ones. Once the Aussie is passed tonight, we can have a look at getting involved with some tight stops on the Aussie New Zealand for the rest of the week. And involving the New Zealand, we can look towards Wednesday to potentially provide direction for any of the New Zealand pairs. So that's how we're going to be planning using the fundamental assessment this week. So let me just get rid of this. And just to go back, now we've done that, I'm going to leave that there. A quick look again at last week, because we're going to move on now to have a look at some of the opportunities that we're looking at for the coming week, and we're going to have a look at oil and US dollar index first. But just to go back to last week in relation to the oil, where's last week? Okay. So what we had on Monday, as you can see, we did not have anything earmarked, any major volatility earmarked on Monday, but we had this medium event at about 6:30, which was Governor Council Member Wilkins speaking involving the Canadian dollar. Now, I'm not 100% sure because I haven't gone back to see what was said. What was said in a way is not completely relevant, because the effect it has is more important. The effect it had was to push the Canadian dollar to the upside. So we obviously came up with something fairly hawkish, and as a result, even though it was expected, and this is why we still have to keep an eye on data, because this was not intended to be a big market mover. However, it turned out to be a big market mover. Unfortunately, it meant we couldn't get involved in one or two of the trades that we were looking at because we couldn't position due to this. However, if we go and have a look at oil now, I'm going to take this off. We can see that this news event last week did in fact cause a divergence from the normal correlation between oil and the Canadian dollar. So you should be able to see the charts up now. So if we go and have a quick look at oil first, we were looking for a continuation of oil to the downside. You can see oil is in this down channel, is trending down. We had this kind of correction here, and we were looking last week for a move down into this area. We did in fact take a trade in the live room last week, and we profited from this trade. And we are now looking for a pullback in oil up to this area. But as you can see, oil last week was moving to the downside. But if I quickly go and have a look at, say, the US dollar CAD, we can see that the CAD was moving to the upside, because don't forget, this is US dollar CAD, so the US is the primary pair, so the US dollar was moving to the downside here, which means CAD was moving to the upside. So just bear in mind that this correlation, if fundamental news comes out, this correlation can diverge, and we can see that leading into the rest of the week this week. So just something to bear in mind for this week when it comes to oil. So although, just to reiterate, we are looking for further declines in oil, which would suggest declines in the Canadian dollar, we just have to bear in mind the strong fundamental data that came out for Canada last Monday, and we could see, although we get a further decline in oil this week, we could still see the Canadian dollar pushing to the upside or remaining in a neutral position. So just bear that in mind for this week. But we are looking now for the 43.67 as the next move down in oil and a continuation of this move. And in fact, we will be looking around this area for some bearish formations or patterns in the ETI live room, which we'll be looking to take this week down to that target area of 43.67. So moving on to the US dollar index. The US dollar index, as we spoke about just now, last week we were looking for moves down roughly into this area, and we're still looking for potential moves down into this area. It's just a question of when it will get down there, or if it gets down there now from this area. We wanted to see a sell-off here on FOMC, and that was the plan that we had. We did get this instead in the data previous to FOMC, and we just spoke about that now. And on that data, it pushed down, and then when FOMC came out, we actually used this to take a few trades last week in the Euro US dollar and the Aussie US dollar. And after that news came out, come FOMC, we saw a double bottom formation take place here, yet to be confirmed, which would be above here. However, what it did was it pushed the US dollar back up, and the US dollar index is now sitting in a range like this, which means that we go into this week with a neutral bias on the US dollar index, because we could get a pullback down to here on the median line, and we could get a bounce up to the top, or we could get a break back down through here and a continuation of a test down here. So we really go into this week with neutral bias on the US dollar index, which means we're looking to trade each of the currency pairs on their own merit. So we can go now and have a look at the first currency pair that we're going to be looking at for this week. Is the Euro US dollar. Now the Euro US dollar last week started to form this kind of rising wedge pattern as we have here. For those who are in the ETI live room, we know that this is a reversal pattern. However, rather than continue to consolidate and get squeezed in this area, what happened was we saw price break out of the rising wedge pattern and also below this, which is a key area of support and resistance dating back all the way in the past. And now what we're seeing is a corrective move taking place and a pullback up until this area. So what we're going to be looking for in the ETI live room this week is some bearish formations or patterns in the lower time frame, because although we're looking at the 4-hour chart here, when we enter, we look to enter down on the 15 minutes chart to get the best risk to rewards on these. And we're going to be looking for a target this week down towards roughly the 1.10194 area of support. As you can see, it acted as a resistance level over here. And if we take away the drawings, we can see further back here, it has acted also as a significant level a number of times in the past, which is what we want to see when highlighting these important zones or these important levels. Again over here, and again bounced here, and as you can see, it capitulated down here. So what we're going to be looking for this week in the Euro-US dollar is a retest, which is what we're getting now, of this area up here, the upward sloping trend line, and possibly even a pullback further to retest the support and resistance area of 1.12233. Now, if we get the bearish patterns or formations that we're looking for in the lower time frames at this level, we're going to be looking to take this down. A continuation of this here, which is a continuation pattern to the downside, a target of 1.10194. So we're going to move on now to have a look at the next pair that we're going to be looking for this week. And then what we're going to do is, once we've gone through a number of the opportunities that we're looking for the coming week, we will open up the chat to any questions anybody's got or any other pairs that they would like me to look at or they're looking at trading this week. So let me just get rid of the drawings here. So the next one we're having a look at this week is the New Zealand US dollar. Now, as you can see, I'm going to remove these, but this is annotating what we're looking for in the New Zealand US dollar. Now, we have, of course, on our weekly fundamental assessment, we have Wednesday marked with a major X for the New Zealand. So what you might find is, you may find that this accumulates in the area where we sit now, and then come Wednesday, you may find that we get a sell-off down into these areas, and we're looking for targets to the downside of 0.71504. As the first intermediary target, you can see we have a large upward sloping trend line here. Further down there, we have the 0.7145 target. These two intermediate targets could be made this week, although we do have an overall target of 0.705 on the New Zealand US dollar. Just bear in mind, it may take a couple of weeks to do this. However, if we get the volatility that we're looking for, and this is where we use the weekly fundamental assessment to provide a catalyst, as well as looking for times to avoid trading currency pairs, we use it as well to provide a catalyst for potential opportunities in the market. This area here of resistance, 7273, dates back quite a distance in the past, but it is a significant area of resistance on this pair. So this week we are looking for a move potentially all the way down to the 0.7055. However, we are going to keep a very close eye on the intermediary targets of 0.71504 and also the second intermediary target of 0.71145. So moving on to the next pair that we're going to look at. We'll have a look at the US dollar Japanese yen. Now, the US dollar Japanese yen, if we scroll back out and we look at the bigger picture here, we can see that we have a gap over here that we were looking to be filled. We spoke about it a number of times in the previous forecasts. I'm not sure if we spoke about it in the Portex webinars, but I think we might have done. But certainly the weekly forecast that we do, it has come down and it has closed this gap over here now. And what we've seen is in the US dollar Japanese yen, we saw a breakout of this accumulation zone denoted by the 112.105 level and also the 110.179 area down here. And we got a breakout of this level. It pulled back and it tried to sell off twice from this area, acting as resistance. Broken support becomes future resistance. And twice it tried to sell off from this area and push this to the downside. We are looking for overall move to the downside down here somewhere longer term, but we could be seeing pullback, even making new highs up here before we look for more moves to the downside. But for the more immediate term, which is this week, this coming week, we are now looking for a potential retest of the 110-179 area. So if we get a retest of the 110-179 area and we get the right kind of bullish formation patterns in this area, then we're going to be looking for a move potentially all the way back up to the range top, or I can say the accumulation top over here, which is 112.105. So in keeping in line with what we're looking at, we're going to look at now a euro pound opportunity that we're looking for this week. Now the euro pound, it's spiked up fairly significantly on the back of the results of the UK election over here. And on the results of the UK election, we also had a breakout of this accumulation zone here. Price has now broken back into this zone, and so what we're looking for this week is we don't have any, if we go and have a quick look at the weekly fundamental assessment here, you can see that we don't have any major news for the euro, we don't have any major news for the pound. So we are looking this week now to enter into this currency pair, either from the area where we currently sit or possibly even a pullback to the resistance top around the 88.27 area. But either way, we're looking to initiate shorts, and if we get the right kind of bearish patterns and formations from this area or a little bit higher up, we're going to be looking down to a target of the 0.8656 area down here, which is the bottom of this range. So that's what we're going to be looking for in the euro pound. Looking at the weekly fundamental assessment, we can see that we can take tight stops on this pair without the high risk, because there's always a risk, no matter what you do in Forex, there's always a risk of pretty much anything happening. But we know that the risk is not high, that we could get a very strong volatile move off the back of economic data. So this is the trade and the potential opportunity that we're looking for this week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through one more opportunity for you guys that we're looking for this week, or we're going to be looking to trade in the ETI live room this week. And that is the New Zealand franc. Now, the New Zealand franc is one that, again, if we go back to the weekly fundamental assessment, we know we have a major news event coming out on Wednesday. So there's different ways that we're going to be looking to trade this. Either if we get the right kind of setup, we're going to enter before the news event on Wednesday, and we're going to be looking for a target down here. Or if we do not get the right kind of, it depends how it reacts, because when you get these interest rate decisions, usually the market will move in certain ways. Statistically, the market will move on in certain ways based on what the institutions and the banks, who are the people who move the markets, based on what they're setting up for and what they're trying to do. Usually they can reveal their hand in the lead up to the interest rate decisions and the monetary policy statements. So we'll be looking to see if they do that, and if they do, we'll get involved beforehand. However, if you are new to trading, you definitely do not want to be getting involved before these kind of news announcements if you're not sure how to trade these. So what you could be looking for is if we get a sell-off from the New Zealand franc, because we are looking for a potential sell-off after the monetary policy statement on Wednesday, then in this area we are going to be looking to initiate shorts down to the 0.6928 area down here. So we're going to be looking for our initial position up here, and then after the news announcement comes out, we're going to start to look for bearish formations and patterns in this area, denoted by the top and the bottom here. and we're going to be looking to take those patterns down towards the 0.6928. So this 0.69208, that is the target that we're looking for on the New Zealand franc this week. However, bear in mind that we could very easily get a positive effect coming out of the monetary policy statement on New Zealand, in which case you're going to see this push into the upside. We do have some targets to the upside as well, but we're going to wait to see first of all what happens. We're really looking to take this to the downside first before we look for any further moves to the upside. So we're up to half an hour mark here, so hopefully that made sense for everyone. What we're going to do now is we'll open up the floor 5 minutes or 10 minutes to any questions anybody's got, any pairs that they're looking at that they would like me to have a look at for them, or anything that they would like to ask, or also anything if they weren't sure about the any of the pairs that we've looked at, or even the weekly fundamental assessment for any of the new people in the room. Any questions? There are no silly questions, guys. So these events and these rooms are always far better when people get involved and they ask questions and they participate. So if you've got any questions, just chat them into the chat now, and I'll be happy to answer them. So I'll give you 1 minute or so, see what questions people have. What about Tim? I can see Tim in the room today. I know Tim is a member of ETI. He's in our live room each week. Any questions, Tim? It's following the ETI trades, yes, so no questions. Okay, well, you're all very quiet today. I guess it's a Monday. Everybody's recovering from the weekend. Okay, so I'll give it another 15 seconds just to see if anybody is typing a long question, because I can't see, it doesn't show up to say if somebody's typing or not. So we'll give it another 15 seconds. And if not, I mean, hopefully, you know, we have a good week this week. We had a nice week last week. I mean, for the guys who are interested in the ETR room, just where we wait to see if anybody's typing any more questions in, you can go to our website and you can actually monitor the results of the ETI trading account. So all of the ETI trading account, I don't know if any of you have heard of my FX book, but last week, as you can see, we started making new highs again on the ETI account, and my FX book basically is a third-party verification site which monitors the results and the trades of traders, because really, truly, and honestly, I mean, if somebody is giving you Forex advice or they're giving you Forex education services, there is no real reason they should not be putting their own results and their own trading online, in our opinion. I mean, that's one of the driving factors behind Ethical Trading Institute. We believe in doing things the ethical way. But I can't see any questions, so if anybody's interested, because we did get some inquiries from the last room, and sometimes we don't really put any information out in these rooms because I'm more keen to actually show you guys something and give you guys something for the week. But if anybody's got any questions, you can go over to the website and just contact us through the email. We'll be happy to help you. So it doesn't look like there's any questions today. Hopefully we have another good week this week, guys. So we're going to wrap it up here, and I'll see you all back next week, and have a great week. Bye-bye. You're very welcome, Tim. Take care. Have a good week. I'll see you in the room.